Are you ready for some brand new, never before seen lore? Keep watching to learn more. My name is Gonal, one of the heads of the Myths and Legacy Project, and I have a lot of exciting new material for you today. This video will be separated into 3 parts, as shown here, although we'll have events later throughout the 810 show, and we'll be collaborating with other creators. Part 1. The Interviews. As part of the Myths and Legacy Project, I've had the privilege to chat with some of BioNICLE's most prominent storytellers. This year, on the 20th anniversary of the BioNICLE Chronicles series and Mnog 2, I am thrilled to share 2 interviews I conducted with Kathy Hopka and Peter Mack. 20 years ago, in the summer of 2003, Mark of Mask of Destiny did the first and only interview with Kathy Hopka, promoting the launch of the Chronicles books. 2 decades later, Mask of Destiny is excited to publish the second ever interview with her. She is an incredibly sweet lady and such a joy to talk to. Although she had no new insights into BioNICLE per se, she revealed a great deal about her writing process and her experiences as a writer. Her answers are immensely fascinating to read, and you should definitely check them out when you get a chance. They are so fun. Nor is this the first interview with Peter Mack that we've done. In the BioNICLE 20th Anniversary Contributors Panel hosted in 810/2021, Peter was featured with a handful of other Templar and Sapphire game developers, as well as other early contributors. The BioNICLE community inundated the hosts with questions for him, only a few of which were asked, with the rest kept to follow up with him later. Now, 2 years later, we have our answers to them. And what answers we have. Not only do we have previously undiscovered appearances and names for some unseen characters, but we also know how Mnog 2 was supposed to play out in the second half following the Koli tournament. Thanks to Peter, we also finally have the 2 original Mnog 2 files that were deleted, rendering the game unplayable shortly after it was completed. Fan substitutes were made in the years afterwards, but for the first time since the game's launch, the missing files are finally restored, including all of Nokama's dialogue. As of this moment, both interviews have gone live on the Mask of Destiny website, where you can view the full transcripts. For those who want to dive in blind and discover Peter's secrets for yourself, feel free to mute and minimize this video until the next part. For those who want a taste of the revelations, including the unseen characters I was just talking about, keep listening. Ready? Alright. I mentioned earlier that we have previously undiscovered appearances and names for some unseen characters. For those of you familiar with the cast of Mnog 2, you will know that each village has a cast of roughly 12 Matoran, the exception being Takoro, which has Takua as the 13th. The only village that had less than 12 was Likora, which only featured 6 Matoran. On top of these 6, the names of 5 more were referenced by Kongu, Gakko pilots who are out on patrol and away from the village when Hali visits. These 5 that he mentions are Boreas, Taiki, Vira, Shu, and Orkan, who later gets renamed Orcam in 2004. But what do these Matoran look like? And is there a 12th Matoran whose existence we only suspect based on the number of Matoran present in the other villages? Well, we had some suspicions about Vira, who inexplicably appeared in the Mentionary CD-ROMs. Not only did this character use the same name as someone who never appeared in Mnog 2, but he also looked like a character who did appear in Mnog. Could this mean that the other Matoran that Kongu mentions had appearances designed, and they just never appeared? They were cut for some unknown reason? Well, our suspicions were correct. For the first time in the 20 long years since the game released, we finally know what these last 6 Matoran look like. They are Boreas, second commander of the Gakko force, Orkan, pilot, Shu, pilot, Taiki, pilot, Vira, pilot, and the name and appearance of the 12th Matoran, whose name we've never known before. Atha, pilot.
Because he never appeared in Mnog 2, we were worried he might be doomed to be a non-canon trivia point like Nabua of BioNICLE Legend of Matanui. However, we've discovered that he does appear in Mnog, and his character can be considered canon.
On top of these, Peter Mack shared a number of other things in his answers, including details on the spelling of Akma's name originally. The fact that following the Cully tournament, the villages and Cully fields would be replaced with ravaged village squares and battlefields, where the mechanics of Cully would be adapted into fights with Hirakshi. The crystals that Holly collected would aid her in her fight, and she would seek out the Mentoran of each village and lead them to Kini Nui. Peter Mac also shared no combat dialogue, which had a lot of revelations about the various walls throughout the game, and context for how they fit into the three virtues, which each village with a wall champions. All of this information, including both interviews, can be seen on the Mask of Destiny site right now.
Also, know that we are continuing to pick Peter Mac's brain about his work, so stay tuned to Mask of Destiny for more behind-the-scenes details.
That's not all, however. Also live on the BioMedia Project are optional patches to Lee Wahi to feature all 6 missing Lematoran. Drop them in your copy of Monog 2 and head to Lee-Core to see what they have to say.
Jolly Guy, who's worked on this Lematoran patch, has also included a bunch of other patches that fix glitches and make the game much more easy and enjoyable to play through. So if you want to play the original version of Monog 2, it's there available for you on BioMedia Project, but if you also want to play this more accessible version of the game, that is available for you as well. Last thing on the subject, now that we know how Holly's adventure was supposed to play out, Ms. Legacy will soon release a Mask of Light companion adventure, continuing her quest in Monog 2, as it was originally supposed to play out, according to the details Peter Mac has disclosed. Stay tuned to our newsfeed for more details on that story.
Now that's a lot, but that's only the first segment. Vision of the Great Beings, a game-changing update. 2 years ago on BioNICLE Day, 2021, the Vision of the Great Beings team went live with its first story content. Featured in the livestream were the first chapters of 3 all-original stories, Mazika, Legacy Weapons, and Light on the Dunes. In the weeks that followed, the rest of Mazika was released, and that December the second chapter of Light on the Dunes was published as well. 1 year ago on BioNICLE Day, the Vision of the Great Beings team returned. This time, the livestream featured the third and final chapter of Light on the Dunes, as well as the Yesterday Quest Chapter 4 and Powers That Be Chapter 5, our first attempts at continuing the actual stories that had been left off over a decade ago. In the weeks that followed, 1 more chapter of the Powers That Be and 2 of the Yesterday Quest were published on Mizzen Legacy. But this past March, on the site's anniversary, all new chapters of Powers That Be and the Yesterday Quest were abruptly pulled. Why? I'll get to that in a minute. There have been countless efforts at continuing the story of BioNICLE. So many brilliant writers and creatives have taken stabs at furthering the story, either by picking up where the serials left off, or by moving ahead in time to near or distant points after the Great Being Civil War has concluded. Some people try to stay loyal to what Greg lays out in his answers, while others put their own spin on the future of the story. There's no way our story could possibly be better than every other story out there, even if we got Greg Farshtey involved. Why do I say this?
We may have gotten Greg Farshtey involved.
Deep in the heart of the Boda Magna forest, in a city veiled to all outside observation, and forever untouched by wandering travelers, a lone mind stirred. Dimly it had sensed what was transpiring above. The chaos of great battles had ended, and a tentative peace seemed to be settling. Now this mind mulled over what it had seen, and it pondered those who now sought a place in a world they had never known. Is there a place for you now that your world has burned out? Much had changed. The planet had been restored to its original form, but Spherus Magna would not be truly healed until atonement for the Core War had been made. The Toa and the denizens of Mononui's universe had acted out a grand simulation, an experiment, to teach the great beings the lessons necessary to make amends. But the free will these denizens had gained caused the experiment to spiral out of control. And now the Toa ironically undertook the task of stopping new evils spreading on the planet. These machines were never built to make things right. A pair of eyelids twitched for the first time in millennia. Their owner stirred and attempted to move. The tubes and wires lining his prone form jumped and shook. and as an unconscious being fought to surface out of the depths of his own mind, the pull of his self-induced slumber proved too strong. Straining against the power restraining him, the mind of the great being screamed. The world outside is dying while we slowly drown. Not living, just surviving. Far to the north, Angonce's thoughts turned once more to his brothers and sisters who had sealed themselves away eons ago. Locked in your paradise, he thought bitterly. A sanctuary burns while you play God. As above, so below. Haramus's thoughts finished, resigned. So below.
Yes, we have enlisted the advice of Greg Farshtey in shaping this story, and he will continue to give feedback as we go.
No, our story will not become canon. It is no more canon than any of the other continuation efforts that have been made or will be made. But the goal of this project has been to make something as close to how BioNICLE canonically could have gone. The closest we can approximate anyway. Something that follows Greg's original vision. And what better way than by being guided by the hand of Greg Farshtey? Greg has given us new insights and new information about the lore as it existed, such as the never-before-seen location of the great beings. This is why the chapters of the Yesterday Quest and the Powers That Be will pull from the site. Now that Greg has examined them, the revised versions of these chapters, complete with his feedback, will go live, along with the new chapters of each story that are now completely ready for release. 6 never-before-released chapters of the Powers That Be, and 6 never-before-released chapters of the Yesterday Quest will debut in the weeks to come, rounding out the first major segment of the Vision of the Great Beings narrative. Furthermore, as a bonus update, we have published all of our research on the likely future of the BioNICLE world on BS01. Although Greg often refrained from setting any future event in stone, he did frequently give his thoughts on the course the BioNICLE world would take following the abrupt conclusion of the serials. Now, every quote that we've managed to uncover has been added to the timeline on BS01, a collection that spans 4.5 pages. Up until now, this project has been a private group run by Lightstone Studios, with creatives pulled from Myths and Legacy, Wall of History, Red Star Games, the Greg Archives, and BS01. Mazika, Legacy Weapons, Light in the Dunes, Yesterday Quest, Powers That Be, and a couple of the stories were written by individuals or small teams, reviewed by the group, and then published. But when the Yesterday Quest and the Powers That Be are finished, we're looking to bring in creatives from the community. Whether you're a writer with ideas about the direction of the story moving forward, or if you want to write a character piece set in the post-Journey's End timeline, this is your chance. Even if you just have ideas you want us to include, we'd love to talk to you. If you're interested in helping to write and guide the story, we'd love to chat with you. If you're a mockist, artist, or musician with any desire to see this through, we'd love to chat with you. The opportunity to see this story to its end, and to do so with Greg Farshtey, is one for which we want to bring as much of the community on board as possible. This story is the community's story. Generation 1 Legacy. With our final segment, we will highlight one final major BioNICLE project that has been cooking. Myths and Legacy has published many stories over the past 3 years, and while many of these were just for fun, many others have been written with a view to a larger endeavor. This is a passion project that is very dear to my heart, and which represents a culmination of much of my work here. BioNICLE as a story is vast and convoluted. It is a story told over many mediums, with threads weaving out of and into one another. It is also a story with many gaps, where story content was intended, but never completed. Finally, it's a story where we sometimes learn crucial plot details outside of the published media, where research was not only recommended, but required. Now, Myths and Legacy is taking its fanfiction and forming a compilation project that fixes all of this. A compilation project unified in the medium of prose, where missing storylines are restored, where some extraneous stories are deleted, and where the full, complete story is laid out over the most cohesive, accessible version of the BioNICLE story ever assembled. This has been a pretty packed video so far, so we won't go into detail here. But stay tuned to the Mizzen Legacy Twitter and Discord for more information over the months to come, and to International BioNicle Day as we release the first half of this complete saga. Thank you for listening. This has been Gonal, and have a great rest of your BioNicle Day.
Hi everyone, this is Emily, one of the BioMedia Project admins, speaking to you from the future year 20XX. So things are pretty cool in 20XX. I'm sure there are the constant acid rainstorms, and BioNicle G3 turned out to be a pretty big disappointment, but the cool thing is that we just finished migrating, updating, and remodeling BioMedia Project with its new home under the Mask of Destiny domain. It is so cool and futury and 20XX core that I wanted to personally go back in time to BioNicle Day 2023 to deliver to you a preview of what's to come. So I have. You can go right now in 2023 to bmp.maskofdestiny.com and you'll see the transformation has already begun with comics, music, and promo CDs all available. Also, fonts. Fonts are there. As time goes on, we'll move over the rest and then get to adding all the new content that you've been submitting to us over the past couple of years. Our new logo comes from an idea that was suggested to us by Voot Kaboot, and it was designed by me with support from the entire BNP team. The prototype Vahi reflects our goal to be a time capsule of BioNicle media, and it was also very useful to me for traveling back to 2023 to provide this message. Okay, thanks, that's all for now. Enjoy the BioNicle Day, bye.
Hey there, this is Nyarah Ghost with an update from the Spirit Forge. Last year, we showcased our project to rebuild every Rahi unique to the once-lost PC game, Legend of Mata Nui. This year, we're happy to say that this project has been completed. We've painstakingly recreated all 11 of these Rahi, with instructions to build them yourself in the style of classic BioNicle manuals, featuring custom renders by Box Turret. Some of these manuals include two variants, Legacy and Rebuild. The Legacy models exclusively use parts that are period accurate to when the Legend of Mata Nui game was made. The Rebuilt models use updated and custom parts. There are also minor improvements to the original designs, making them as accurate to the look of the original game models as possible. All of these will be available to download for free in the coming days, so keep an eye on our socials to see when they drop. But that's not all. In collaboration with Red Star Games and Lightstone Studios, we are proud to present 36 custom-designed Rakshi. These Sons of Makuta use parts from the Red Star Forge, each with a unique spine and weapon, and their names are taken from the extensive lore of Red Star Games' Doranai Nui. To celebrate the creation of these fearsome beasts, we've created full art covers for each variation. These renders were created by Lightstone's Grandpa Walker, Vakiti, and Red Star Games' own Petrus. All 36 of them will be released alongside the Rahi instructions. They'll even come bundled with transparent renders and PSDs. These Rakshi will also feature this fall in Lightstone Studios' new Quest for the Masks expansion, Rising Shadow, Hidden Light, with wallpapers and possibly more coming soon. And as a final bonus, many of you may remember that in 2003, we got Matoran Koli players from 4 of the 6 villages of Mata Nui. Now, 20 years later, Spirit Forge is thrilled to host the Lei Koro and Onu Koro teams for their final match of the Great Koli Tournament. Now you can easily add Onipu, Taipu, Kongu, and Tamaru to your Koli collection, as well as the prototype stick featured in the original renders. And for the most ambitious collectors, you can now assemble a full collection of Mata Nui villagers, complete with the Lost Lamatoran of Mata Nui Online Game 2, thanks to the information we now know from Peter Mack. Credit for these goes to Grandpa Walker and Box Turret. That's all the new things from the Spirit Forge, but we still have some more exciting announcements to make. Stay tuned to maskofdestiny.com for future updates, and happy 5th anniversary to BioNicle Day!